Okay, let's start. Great. Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to our theme call on urban farming and city management. For those who don't know me yet, I'm Amelie and part of the Project Together Farm Food Climate team. And I'm very pleased to welcome Andrea Rosen tonight. She's Smart City Lead at Infarm. Infarm, as you all know, is a Berlin-based company that develops vertical farming technology to grow leafy greens indoors, a very interesting development in urban farming and city management, and of course, very relevant for our farm food climate challenge as well. We have some vertical farming initiatives ourselves, but also it's a very interesting way to connect food production and consumption in cities. So I'm super interested in your talk, Andrea. In terms of procedure, Andrea will introduce herself and present for about 15 minutes. And after, we have plenty of time for questions that you can send to me via the chat function. And please feel free to do so already during the talk. I will collect your questions and then post them to Andrea. Yes, I'm looking forward to hear you, Andrea, and about your experiences and insights from your role at Infarm. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm just going to quickly share with you the screen. So hopefully you can see above. 1 second. Okay. 1 second while it's loading. Okay, does everybody see?
Perfect, yeah.
Okay, good. So just to quickly introduce, I'm Andrea. I made the Smart City team at Infarm. We're a newer team. We've only been running for the last 11 months, so it's still quite in infancy stage as it is. But I know you're probably thinking, what does Smart City have to do with food production? So I guess just to distinguish between what we're doing and what the rest of the company is doing. So the company is, of course, looking at what are we doing today, and we are looking at what does the holistic picture look like in the future. So how food production connects with what else is going on in cities and how we can discuss, with cities, how we can make them self-sufficient in their food production. So just a little bit about us. We are the Infarmers, and your city is our farm. We are passionate about eating better and growing our own food. We want all the taste and goodness without the chemical pesticides and food miles. So we asked ourselves, how can we offer the widest variety of our own grown produce to everyone? So we consider ourselves powered by technology.
Andrea?
Farming. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Your microphone is a little bit unstable. We can hear you very well if you're in front of the computer.
No.
But if you move back, it connects a bit. I mean, we can hear you, but if you're a bit in front, then it's...
I just get closer to you. That's all. No problem.
Yes.
Everyone can get very close to me in a non-socially distanced way over virtual. Okay, so everyone hears me okay now? Yeah, so the main point of all of this is how we can bring, of course, farming directly to the people, and we grow your own and we taste the goodness. So this is sort of the movement that we are making behind what we do technologically. So just a little bit about us. So actually, that should not be a plus, that should be a percentage. Sorry about that. We're working with 30% of the top of the global largest retailers. We're quite a big company at this point. It might shock everyone to know that we're a little bit more than 650 people. We have 11 active countries and over 1,000 farms installed. We have 11 production hubs in operation, maybe not in every country, but in most countries we do some have more than one. And we have now, to this date, have harvested almost 5 million plants internationally. So we are growing quite fast. And of course, our goal is to grow a smart worldwide Infarm network that brings farming directly to the people. So I'm going to just explain how we do that in a centralized and decentralized way. Making everything, of course, hyper-local is one of the most important things of our mission at Infarm. So as you probably know, we are a Berlin-based HQ'd company, but we do have hubs and offices in almost all of our locations. Most of our tech talent is here in Berlin, so we have this remote way of seeing all the farms, which I'll actually get into a bit of detail, but everything in some ways is centralized here, but yet decentralized in terms of where we are growing all of our products. So as I said, we are active in 11 countries, but some of them are actually secret. So that's why I don't have one of the countries up here, but we are active in 11 of them. You can see from our first farm in 2015 just how quickly we have grown throughout this time. Although, of course, it probably helps since we raised our Series B last year, and as you might know, we raised our Series C, just announcing it a few weeks ago, with 170 million US dollars. So that helps a bit with the scaling, of course. And also you can see examples of some of the major retailers that we have currently signed and are working with. So the main aspect of what we do is that we produce in the city itself. We grow our plants with love and chemical-free, being pesticide-free, and then we harvest and sell the impactful produce directly where our clients are. So you can see just based on this picture here, this is an example of our in-store farm, of the modular farms that we put directly inside the stores themselves, plus our point of sale stations of where showing how we harvest the plants and put them out there. So sort of how this hybrid model works is that we have these in-store farms directly inside of the stores, enabling them to become farmers themselves. We can also put them, in many other places. So restaurants are an example. We can put them in schools. We can basically put them anywhere where there's power and water. So we can enable anyone to be a farmer. And then on top of that, we create distribution centers or hubs, which is still very much inside of the city, where we do all of our food production, the rest of our food production and R&D. And in turn, we can, with clean last mile logistics, we can supplement the rest of the demand to the in-store farm. So you're probably wondering, what is the point of having the in-store farms then? So the point of having the in-store farms is that it's very important for customers to know where their food comes from, so they're able to see where the plants are harvested directly on site. But of course, they're still too small to fit all of the demand, so we need to have other solutions for it. Of course, how we also do it with some of our locations is that we can actually put some of these industrial models directly outside the stores themselves, or potentially at their distribution centers. So little by little, we will always have a hybrid model of eliminating food miles by 100%, as well as by a lower percent when we're able to do it this way. So a little bit more about our in-store farms. Here's a much nicer picture of one of our examples that you might have seen at Edeka. So here we are able to augment consumer awareness. There's a theater in it. There's a theater of seeing, our growers come in and harvest the plants because actually our model is farming as a service. So our growers still come in and deal with the harvesting. This has always been like this, but it's also especially because of our sanitary restrictions and making sure that, especially given Corona times, now everyone really gets it. You need to make sure that it's clean. Keeping it hyper local, so all of those plants, or the majority of those plants that you see outside the in-store farm, were harvested directly on site. Anything else is supplemented by our hubs, which I'll go into detail about soon, and having the high quality plants all year long. So here's just some examples of what some of our in-store farms, some locations look like. So you can see from Germany. This other one is in the UK. I think this next one is a US location in Seattle. So here you get sort of a view of what it looks like. And you can see for us, it's kind of nice from a marketing perspective. I mean, what are you going to buy? The one that's wrapped in all sorts of plastic and is kind of that isn't alive anymore, or something that is still alive, because even when we harvest our plants, it's still harvested with the root intact. So our plants are still alive even you pick them up, not cut like you get in other produce. So these are sort of the only way I can show you what our distribution centers look like. Unfortunately, I can't show you what our newest generation of farms do look like, not yet at least, but I can tell you that they're much larger and produce significantly more amounts of plants than they do today. They actually harvest much faster. And yeah, so everything we do here is to supplement the rest of the demand and showing how we can put these, not just in our hubs in the future, but potentially in hubs of retailers in the future, making sure that supply chain isn't interrupted. We're okay here in Germany, but there are many other countries that weren't so lucky in this time, especially with Corona. Unfortunately, obviously, we do not grow toilet paper, but still, I think what we bring to the table is still just as valuable. Maybe not to Corona, but still, we bring reliable supply chain for food produce. So essentially, what we do is we create the most scalable, rapidly deployable modular farms. So like I said, I can't go into detail about what this newest generation looks like, but just to show you how this compares to 7,000 meters squared of farmland, which is essentially a football field. So if you're looking at it like this with this football field, you can see just with one of our newer generation of farms that the amount of produce that we are doing there is actually equal to what you would see here. So having it vertically and having better technology and being much more efficient, we're able to produce such significant yield than you would in farmland that's equal. So we are the world's first cloud-connected farm. So as I think I commented on earlier, but now I can go into more detail. With this, everything is connected to a cloud-based farm brain that learns, adjusts, and improves yield and taste constantly. So it makes everything predictable, dynamic, so we can react to anything going on. If there's something that goes down in our farms in Paris, we can see it here. Even in Seattle, we can see it here, and it makes it easier for us to make our farms scalable going forward. So everything we're doing inside the store is just the first step of how we're going to continue to scale it. And this is how we can continue to work from a city perspective. So what we're essentially doing is we've been collecting so much data, and we're continuing to collect it, and there are so many elements of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So from this, we can actually optimize not only the growing recipes, but we can also optimize continuing our energy efficiency, reduce human intervention. We can start to see different problems with the plants even before they begin with the more data that we collect. So everything that we're doing essentially will be not only good for us, but good for vertical farming in the future, everything that we're able to collect. So I guess what makes us different is our resiliency. We raised our Series C over a pandemic, and we have also launched new farms in the pandemic, and I think if we can do that, we can do anything. So we currently offer over 60 different types of varieties of lettuce, herbs, and leafy greens, but that's only the start. I can't get into what we're doing next, but more is coming very soon. We have also made sure that our technology is scalable, not only in supermarkets, but also restaurants. We are now starting our work with cities and how we get further into scalable food production. And then also with our newest generation of farms, we are now showing just how much more efficiency there is, not only from the yield, but from the energy side. Because let's face it, energy is one of the biggest problems when it comes to vertical farming that there is. So this is definitely one of the bigger building blocks that we at InFarm focus on. So it's not just about being able to grow everything, which is clear we can do. It's about maximizing this from your energy perspective as well as your CapEx perspective. And then looking at it from the quality perspective, so making it clear that it's full of nutrients. I know that there's a lot of debate around hydroponics and the nutrition, but we are the first vertical farming company to receive our global GAP certificate. So this is also just the start of showcasing not only our nutrition, but our safety and sanitary values. So I guess the question is, where is it going? What are we starting to do? So as I said, high energy input is one of the biggest challenges around vertical farming. So what we are trying to do is we are integrating renewable energy sources from the grid because we have smart power consumption. We have a whole team centered around energy and climate, and what I'm doing in Smart City is working on these partnerships in regards to the integration. Currently, a good portion of our hubs are actually only running on renewable energy, so that's really important. So it's making the systems more energy efficient continually. Software is definitely helping with that, and then the integration. And then, of course, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions with carbon capture technologies. This is also something we are starting. And then also working on innovative heat redistribution concepts. There's so many more where that comes from. This is only just a brief outlook of what a portion of the vision is going forward of how we can make our systems way more circular and resource efficient. Everything we're doing aligned with the EU's Farm to Fork objectives. So I guess just to sort of finish this off, we are now working to making sure everything has high traceability. So high traceability throughout the supply chain to make sure that there is a high level of risk management. Making sure we are pandemic proof, and then the optimization of what we are doing from the plant perspective and energy perspective. So this is sort of how I round about what we contribute to a post-pandemic world. And yeah, I think I talked a little bit too much, so sorry about that. That's how I can end it. And I hope that you got all that and that I was close enough to the mic, having trouble with this system. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Andrea. That's fascinating insights into urban food production, maybe the future of food production. We have a lot of questions already in the chat, and I will not waste time addressing them.
I'm trying to take this off of share, and it's not working. Hold on a second. I found it. There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay.
I will jump into all the questions that have been posed. Maybe one. I
will warn you, I'm not an engineer, so I will do my best with the technical questions. But
it had a little bit troubles, and I mean, we could understand you, but I think the headset is a little bit unstable. I don't know if it would be better to take it off at all.
Oh, sorry. Let me try 1 second. Okay. Try talking?
Yeah, that's better. Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I should have done that the whole time. I just have people.
Okay. So the first question is, what do you think is the allure of Infram that convinces investors?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I can't give away everything, but I can tell you that I think we had the right way of going about it with our modularity. We were quite stealth about some of the bigger things we were doing, and showcasing that in private as opposed to in public was definitely very helpful. What we created is a scalable network building up instead of starting, the way I think most people do it, which is larger industrial centers. That's not what vertical farming is meant to do. What vertical farming is meant to do is to decentralize and create hyper-local, not, creating more distribution centers where you're packaging and wasting things from outside. So I think overall, our business model and our vision around energy and impact is one of the more interesting parts.
Thanks a lot. I hope that answers your question, Alice. Then we have questions all around fertilizers and pesticide management. So what does chemical-free mean? Are you using chemical fertilizers or organic ones? And what about pest outbreaks? We have specific question. Do you fertilize iron in a chelated form? I don't know how to pronounce it actually.
Yeah. Scientist, so I can only answer portions of these questions.
Okay, yeah, don't worry. And then maybe a related question also to that. Do you do anything special to make the harvest faster, or do the plants grow in their normal natural pace?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, we have. I'll start with the first. I mean, that we do use a mix between organic and chemical fertilizers. It depends on which varieties we are doing. We are, of course, working on different pilots with ways to make it purely organic and find other ways of doing it. This is the plan, of course, in the future to get rid of chemicals entirely, but we are chemical free in terms of there's no pesticide use whatsoever. We do use beneficials. I don't know if that answers your question in regards to pests, things like that, but not no chemical pesticides whatsoever. The other parts of the question I didn't really get just because I'm not the crop scientist behind that. So unfortunately, I can't go too deep into that. We have been able to optimize our recipes to make them shorter in harvest cycles, yes. So due to what we have with data and software and experimenting with different things, yes, we have been able to shorten the harvest cycles. You're on mute.
I just okay, great. Now we are. Another technical question: what hydroponic method do you use? And here we have some examples. DWC error. What is your? That's maybe the next question. Are you able to answer that question, or don't worry if it's too technical?
It's a bit too technical for me, unfortunately. I mean, I think if you were to explain it, maybe then I would get it, but no. I think I'm the wrong person because I don't come from the agricultural sector whatsoever. I'm more of the technical innovation side. So I look at things very holistically, and I utilize my leads in crop science and hardware engineering and energy and climate when I'm dealing with any of these concepts. So I'm sorry, I'm the wrong person.
The question has been asked by quite a technical expert in that field. Dennis, do you have any comments or any other question regarding this? Or
yeah, if I wasn't so underwater, I would probably need like a explain every part of this. But no, usually when when these questions come up, I bring in my experts to.
Yeah, Dennis, any comments?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm fine. One day I will talk to your experts about the agricultural side.
Sounds good.
But we have maybe a question that you already addressed in your presentation, but maybe you can comment on it a little bit. What is your vision for 2030?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have a vision of obviously being completely climate neutral, we want to be carbon neutral by I'd say end of 2022, sometime 2023. I hope we can get there. I think it's many things. One, we obviously want to optimize this vision of circularity and resource efficiency. So this is actively what we do in our team by these validation projects. So this way we can bring this into the full scope of InFarm. We are currently making as many of our hubs renewable running on renewable energies as possible. We are making our systems more energy efficient. And then of course, we want to continue to integrate larger scale partners to making sure that that everything we do is efficient. So it's focusing on this. And I think even as a startup, having this team that's smart city and energy and climate just shows what commitment our C-levels have to getting there. So it's definitely a mission-driven company, and that's what we're all working to do. I think 2030 is even too far. I think we'll be there way before that, just because I know how much we're doing on our end for it, and also what we are looking at when it comes to being as involved with farm to fork as possible.
Right. How do you deal with other vertical farming initiatives? Do you support new players in the market?
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, we think that there is space for many different vertical farmers. And I think what we're doing will also help other vertical farming companies in the long run by us paving the way, having data, all of this. we're still a commercial entity, which is why there's still so much IP that is ours, and vice versa. But of course, we are only one piece of the puzzle. We are not trying to take the entire the entire pie. Well, I just put a lot of metaphors together, but what I'm trying to say is that we're only one part of a larger vision. So yeah, I think in the end there will be many ways to partner up with other companies, but yeah, we definitely don't see us being the only one in the end.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a question related to that by Dimitri. Do you feel you are making the price battle harder for local farmers, so you offer more efficient, cheaper supply, or do you think it doesn't affect them that much?
No, I mean, the goal is not to eradicate local farmers whatsoever. The goal is to create hyper-local farming ecosystems and food production ecosystems for cities. That being said, even if you would need a lot of what's coming from us to eliminate local farmers, we're trying to supplement what's coming from them, and then two, also help with unstable conditions. And the third is that what we want to get rid of is the problem we have now with food miles, so shipping in dead food from all over the world, which is a huge problem. And then also the continued destruction of arable land. So what we should do is we should focus on farmers that are as close to the city as possible, and not continue to ship things in, and then supplement everything else and continue to make sure cities don't have a problem with supply chain by integrating it. Future vision is also how we can continue to work with farmers, so help them when weather conditions are unstable or things like that. So there is definitely a vision around that, but the plan is never to eradicate the farmers or even compete with them.
Sure. And you already touched on it. There's a question about the CO2 footprint the plants are taking into account, the materials for growing in artificial light and so on. And maybe connected to that, and that's something that I was also very interested in, is there's CO2 footprint, but you also mentioned carbon capture techniques. Could you maybe also explain a little bit about that?
I can't go into too much detail because then I'm giving away a lot of our secrets, unfortunately. But yeah, of course, what I can tell you is, we are analyzing our outputs all the time. We know our CO2 emissions, per plant, for the hardware, different processes. So we know all of this, and so we know what we have to do in order to go to get better. And there's lots of different techniques around it. So that's why we are validating all of these ideas at the moment to see what we can put in larger scale and what works on small scale. That's sort of where we're at now, because we have all impact investors as well, and we know that we know the business model, we know how that works, we know our customers, we know how that works, and we know how to make reliable, scalable produce. So the next step is, how do we increase the technology, which is what we're already doing, to a level that's game changing, and that's what we're trying to do with all of our work around energy and CO2. Sorry, I hope that briefly answers your question. I just can't go into too much IP there.
Yeah, no worries. Some secrets need to stay secrets. There's a question about supermarkets. How do supermarkets respond when you offer your system? What are common barriers and drivers of technology adoption?
I think having our model the way we had it was really good for supermarkets. I mean, we do farming as a service, so we do quite a bit for them. Showing the business model we did, made it easy for our customers to adapt to what we were doing. I don't know how to explain it any other way, but I don't really see too much in barriers. I think what's still difficult, and as I'm sure anyone who does vertical farming can understand, is making sure the CapEx really works, our margins really work. So you want to actually have the right amount of stores and the right amount of plants to make it commercially viable. So I think that's one of the main things that we work on. But from a barrier perspective, at this point, there aren't so many. It's we get retailers pinging us a lot. It's more of making the right model with each retailer that works, to make it worth it for us to expand into new places. So we definitely want to optimize it as much as possible. It's why we chose really carefully the retailers that we're working with, so we can continue to optimize it. But I think right now there are very few barriers in terms of them working with us. It obviously was harder in the beginning, but luckily we got over some of those barriers.
How about certification? I mean, do consumers trust, or you have the feeling that consumers trust the products, even though they are not, I mean, bio-certified, because probably you're, yeah.
Well, I mean, this is my soapbox here, but we have our Global Gap certificate, which is super important as a whole. But bio-certified is actually just a matter of discrimination and education. So, I mean, for something to be certified as bio, then you would need to have soil, and we're soilless. So you can actually have bio or organic certified produce, but who knows where it comes from, or how long it's been dead, or how many food miles that you really have on it. So there's very little education to the public about what all of these things mean. It's very trendy to buy something that's bio or organic and things like that. I think many vertical farming companies, as we move into the future, we will work on what that looks like, how we can have different certifications around that, because I think that's still something that needs to move in a bit of a better way. I do think people are intrigued when they go into stores. We also do significantly less plastic and things like that, and so there's definitely things that are exciting for the customers when they come in. But it's hard for me to say. I mean, I would walk in and see something that's dead and wrapped in plastic. I say dead, I mean the roots are cut off. You have no idea how long it's been there, what chemicals it's wrapped in, versus something with the roots still on, in water, almost like flat. They're like a flower bouquet, ready to pick. I take it home. I put it in 2 centimeters of water in a cup on my windowsill or just on the shelf, and I'm just picking off the leaves. Sometimes it lasts 3 weeks, sometimes a month. Just because it's still in that freshness. So yeah, I think having the Global Gap certificate was a huge certification for us. We are working on other certifications around sustainability to showcase that as sort of a sustainable product going forward. But I think the main issue that vertical farming companies definitely have is around those bio-organic things that I know all of us are working on, whether it be together as alliances or separately, about how we can change the education around that.
Yeah, and what about, well, actually, when I once tried a basilicum from vertical farming leaf, I really thought that it tasted very intense, even more intense than normal basilicum. What about like nutrients? Are there studies about like the amount of nutrients and how they compare to crops that grow on soil?
Sure. To be fair, there's not enough studies on what's going on with nutrients and vertical farming out there. We have done a few based off of our best products and things like that, so we can definitely talk about the factors of our metabolites and different things that are definitely higher. We are now getting into more studies now that we have some projects around this, so we should have more data in the future. But no, it is a very difficult question around there. But still, I mean, I need studies to prove this, of course, but I believe that it will come out in our favor.
What about ethical discussions? Do you run into any ethical discussions regarding soillessness? Or is that not a theme that you have to tackle or defend?
I mean, not something I usually deal with or have dealt with. In the end of the day, we are providing a solution for what could potentially, of what we would need in the future. So it's not a matter of, do we think vertical farming will be the solution of how we only grow crops? No, I mean, vertical farming industry stems from the space industry. It's about how do you create when there's nothing. I see it as ways that we can make our global farming systems more efficient once we figure out the energy perspective a bit more and think about how we save on food miles and all of that. It is an additional solution, hopefully, if we don't continue to ruin our planet, that we can use in parallel to make sure that we can feed everyone. I mean, as you know, the statistics, we're going to be around 8 billion people in or something just in the city center by 2050. You would need 2 planets to feed all of those people. So you need solutions that can do that. So I don't know, it depends what kind of ethics you are looking at here. If you mean because of we are modifying something that's not in soil, it's not something I tend to deal with, but it's a matter of how you go about all of these solutions going forward.
And there's actually a very related question. How do you go about these solutions, or how do you convince customers that might be skeptical of this new growing method?
Oh, well, I'm not the salesperson. I mean, I talk more with technology partners and cities and validate new concepts, but I don't know how they had to do it in the beginning. I'm not sure. Now it seems like we don't have to really convince anyone. I mean, there was, the time even before pre-corona where we knew that we had to make changes to our food system, that there are problems. We are wasting half of the food that is actually created in this world, which is crazy. It's not even the amount of trillions of dollars we're wasting. It's the amount of food that we're wasting. But now we are in this time where it became clear that our solution is pandemic proof. And when you're pandemic proof, you have very little to do. You don't need to do so much convincing, because it became clear to cities that were much more unlucky than how we have things here in Berlin, that not everyone has access to what we have. There are places that were completely cut off from their food supply due to corona issues and things like that. So we know that this is that people are looking for solutions like this to implement.
Do you see the potential of vertical farming also outside of leafy greens, or is that too much energy? And
no, of course, it's all coming. It's all coming quite quickly, and that's all I can say. There is more coming, and soon.
Okay, keep us posted. There's a more technical question. Are you thinking about doing aquaponics instead of hydro?
No.
Okay, that's a clear answer. Let me see if I missed questions. Yeah, there's something about logistics. Do you also build and run your own logistics, or do you use external couriers to collect your produce and deliver to clients?
For the most part, we have our own logistics. We were running with vehicle fleets from our hub to the retailers to supplement demand. We are now moving into only e-vehicles. We are testing out a few different solutions around e-vehicles, whether they be electric powered, solar powered, many different opportunities around this. There were some locations we did start out with prior to begin with, just as a first start, but now we're moving everything into logistics. So the goal is, of course, to cut the logistics as much as possible with our, eventually we aim to not have them at all, that we can move out of that. We're starting also to implement this with some of our clients. So whether they operate it or whether it's directly at their store or distribution center, point is to cut as much as the supply chain as possible.
Mm-hmm. Another question about willingness to pay. So the willingness to pay by organic and supermarket is almost absent in Europe. So you're really trying a premium market, or are you more oriented at the public in general? Sorry, I have to read. Are you more oriented at the public in general at regular prices?
I think what you'll find, looking at some of who our clients are, so especially they were more high end up until now. So I wouldn't say high end in terms of, artisanal bespoke stores, but more like this, it would be marketed like bio and organic up until now, but still competitive price points. But you may know that we announced our partnership with Aldi Süd earlier this year. So with this, we will be able to change price points depending on, where we are. And the goal is, of course, to bring it to everyone. So we will be lowering those price points.
Do you also work on solutions for the customers, so B2C, or is it all in? No. Okay.
No, we do have. It will always still be B2B, but in terms of customers, we will not. You mean, are we selling plants directly to customers, or B2C in terms of farming systems?
Farming systems.
Oh yeah, farming systems will never be B2C. No.
Okay. Are the plants pre-grown and then transferred to the inform grow boxes?
So it works in both. It's a hybrid model. So we bring them as in after seedling stage, after nursery stage. We then bring them to the in-store hubs to continue growing, and this way they can be harvested from there. And then we also bring over fully grown ones to supplement any extra demand.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think I've covered the questions in the chat so far. So if you have any other questions for Andrea, please let me know. We still have some time to address them. Just there's one. How's the concept change going?
The concept change? I don't understand.
What do you mean by the concept change? Sorry. You want to, please open your microphone and speak if you want.
So before the concept was to sell the herbs and basically gain the income by having the price of the herbs. But then I've heard that Infarm wants to change the system more into management of digital plant systems and more caring about the whole system. So as far as I noticed, Infarm started to continue grow its markets into the Aldi segment. But I'm wondering if they are still like planning on selling per herb, or because like the
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, all I can sort of comment on this without giving away all of our plans is that we are, of course, experimenting with different models. I think we will always, or at least for the next few years, for sure, continue with the model we have with implementing hybrid solutions in the meantime. But yeah, we're now at the scalable point where we know what works, so now we can look into where their interest lies of how we can make it even further scalable.
Yeah, but do you get now? Are you renting the farms?
I wouldn't consider it renting. Yes, but we own our hardware. I can say.
Yeah, I know that you own your hardware. Maybe like to my background, I've worked in Infarm as a field grower, so I'm pretty aware on how the system works, and I'm also aware on how about some of the concept works, like how the money flows. So I have an idea about it overall. I was just like wondering if some significant changes in the approach to the markets happened, because this is kind of what I saw necessary at the time.
Yeah. When did you work at Infarm, by the way? Just curious.
Last year.
Okay. Well, as you know, I mean, things move very fast and they change.
Many things changed, new investment and stuff. Yeah.
I can tell you that the models are all moving quite fast. I mean, even how things are going to work, in the next few years is going to be, or even in 6 months will probably be super different, because there's a lot more that's going to be validated. But you want to obviously think as scalable as you possibly can, and that's
sure. But as I heard now, nothing really changed. Like nothing significant seemed to change.
As much as I can say publicly, sure. Let's keep it. But
all right. Yeah. Okay. All questions answered.
Yeah.
I
Then
can think. Yeah.
we have
Okay.
some
Thank
more.
you.
Thanks. Did Infarm think about Japan as a key market?
Sure, we're launching in Japan. It was announced. This year about our launch in Japan in collaboration with JR and Woo. If anyone actually knows Japanese, you can find those articles in TechCrunch Japan. If not, you can find it in English as well. But yes, we have already launched we have our hub in Tokyo, and we'll have, I think, first plants there next year.
Okay, interesting. Maybe a bit more operational question. Do end customers pick harvest the plants in the stores, or
No.
do line workers harvest them and put the produce in the shop?
No, we can't have customers harvest the plants themselves due to sanitary regulations and things like this. So only our field growers do it, and they do it fully, protected with gloves and yeah, with gloves and with caps. I'm losing my words at this point of the day, but yes, fully dressed in order to pick everything.
And fully pandemic proof, as you are resilient. Is in-farm planning a franchise model? That's another question.
Perhaps.
Okay, let's move on.
Some things I just can't go into.
No worries. I mean,
on, but yeah.
Wait, let me read.
Oh, I see there's some angry comments here. Ouch.
Angry comments. Wait, let me scroll through. About investments, is there an acceptance of high burn rate for the coming years? What is the minimum expansion speed?
I'm not sure what you mean by minimum expansion speed, but of course, I mean, yes, you have to deal with certain burn rates when you're getting to a certain level. We're very lucky that we have quite a nice backlog of contracts that helps us with everything we're doing. I'm not sure though what is meant by minimum expansion.
So the percent of the new location per year, says Emil. Emil, if you want, you can open your mic and maybe pose your question. Okay.
Yeah. Hello. Sorry, I was a little bit late, so I didn't have the first 10 minutes. In many of these investment companies, you see that or you go for cash flow, positive cash flow, and keep it self-sustaining, or to grow and to accept over first 5 years an enormous debt and then fund it by venture capital. Well, you're from an investment position, so you probably know what here the path is to grow. And that's often considered to be a public information, because thereby they want to attract certain partners. So often you have like, okay, we want to grow with a minimum of so many locations per year, or this amount of turnover per year, etc. How is that at Infarm?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can see how quickly we have grown, so we're definitely accepting some of the latter. I think we have a lot of work to do over these next bit of time to drive down this burn rate as much as possible while continuing to scale. Sure, there's a lot that we're accepting, but I don't really see it as problematic at this point. Does that answer your question?
Well, what is actually the expansion that you foresee? So it's not so much if it's a problem, it's more like, okay, what is it?
No, that I can't go into detail, and I can't go into our expansion plans, but we are definitely we're continuing, as you have seen over the last couple of years, we're continuing to grow at that rate. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we have a couple more minutes, and I would really, of course, we here, like, we try to, our ideas to promote open source also in our initiatives, but I think there's no reason to happy for Andrea to keep her secrets of the company.
We're still a commercial entity. So while we want to do well for the world and we want to partner with different technologies, we do think what we can do can pave the way for the future. But we're not an open source company. There's a lot of IP coming from what we're doing. In the future, we will be able to sell what we're doing to other vertical farming companies to be able to grow. But it's you need commercially viable products to be able to move into this phase in the future, not just on goodwill. So sorry if you don't agree, but that's my stance.
Okay, another question. Are you thinking of opening up your own in-farm supermarket, just with urban agriculture and regional supply chains? And the comment is that would also support farmers, as you said.
Yeah, I'd say it's all possible. I'm not sure right now, as we definitely like working in some ways with these third parties. But I guess anything is possible for sure.
Mm-hmm. Doris, maybe do you want to elaborate on your question that you posed before, because it was understood differently?
Yeah, sure, I can. I think I just posted a bit inaccurately because I wanted to not only know if you measure greenhouse gas emissions, but also how they compare to like how in-farm grown plants compare to soil-grown plants, if you have numbers. And also, since you mentioned the carbon neutrality, which scope does it include? Like, does it include also producing like the farms, for example, and the materials and the production of those, or is it solely focusing on the process of growing the plants themselves?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. So one, we are in the middle of our 2020 LCA right now. So all those numbers are going to be updated really soon, not publicly, unfortunately, but we are keeping track of all of this. So we are, with our LCA, of course, comparing to traditional agriculture as well as other farming systems. So this way we know how what we're doing compares. And then for what you said for carbon neutrality, I would say that the first focus for sure is, of course, on the process, but definitely fixing our supply chain with better partners around this is, of course, one of, I'd say, is a huge goal. I hope that can be done by 2022, but it is more the process that I think we want to have carbon neutral by 2022, end of 2022.
Thank you.
Thanks. Maybe we have one or two more questions. Is there anything that has not been addressed? Any burning question that you would like Andrea to answer? I hope I could keep up with all the questions in the chat. If I don't, please let me know if I missed anything. Sorry, if clients have your hardware on their site, do you train their own employees as harvesters, or how do they do the harvesting? Okay, going back to the harvesting question.
Yeah, we do it. That's part of our farming as a service.
Sorry, you do it, but what about in supermarkets?
We go to supermarkets and we harvest for them.
Okay.
That's part of our service model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there are no more questions of the community, I would really like to thank you for your presentation, for your for all your knowledge to answer all our questions. And
everyone's except for the open source.
Yeah, there are different perspectives, and of course, I think still there's a lot to be learned from your approach and the technology that you have. And if there are no other questions, I would really like to thank you for your time. And of course, this call is recorded and shared with the community. And I hope to keep connected with you. Maybe if there are any other questions, please feel free to let me know, and we can connect again.
Okay, great. Thank you. Nice to meet you. And yeah, have a good rest of the evening, everyone.
Have a great evening. Thanks a lot, Andrea.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.